Welcome to the channel. Today I have to service my generator, and I have to service it because it just did about 20 hours of runtime, and I like to get on top of these things and do it really rather quickly. This particular one is an AutoJack. It's an inverter generator, 800 watt. Don't be put off by that. If it looks roughly like that, then the basic construction functionality will be just about identical. As a matter of fact, this exact model was offered, I think, by another 4 brands when I bought this one, and I bought it purely because it was the cheapest. They all seem to come from the same factory. Now, before we get into the gubbins of taking the cover off, we're going to do something much more important, and that is we're going to take the fuel out. The fuel these days is made of 10% of it is ethanol, and even pure petrol will degrade over time and lose some of its potency, and a lot of time people can't get their generator started. It's because the fuel is about 5, 6, 7, 8 years old and is all a bit gummed up and it won't go. I always take all the fuel out, and I'll even go a step further, and I will run this generator and I will burn off the dregs that are still in there by letting the generator tick over until it basically runs out of fuel. I have one of my 10-litre canisters here. In the UK, this is the largest canister you can use for storing petrol. You're allowed 2 of them. So if you keep your petrol in a 20-litre can and something happens, you might get trouble from your insurance company. So let me see whether I can pour out what petrol we have left in this thing. Okay, did I get it all? No. Am I going to get it all? No. And fundamentally, this is why I like to start this generator. Obviously not in here, because there's rather a smell of petrol. I'm going to take it outside. I'm going to start it up, and I'm just going to let it run. I'm not even going to put load on it. I'm just going to let it tick over until it finishes, which is going to be in about 10 minutes time or so. Okay, welcome back. So yeah, it ran for a little. I think I got about 4 minutes out of it. It's bone dry in there. The little bulb has a little bit of liquid left in it, but I know from experience I'm not going to get that out. This is a good moment to take the cover off, and I'm going to do it purely because it isn't hot. It just ran a little. I have a feeling the engine oil will be nice and warm, and I want to get as much of that out as possible. I have my crappy plastic bottle. I know you wouldn't think it would stand up to it, but here's last year's. I still haven't been to the dump. Dear, dear, dear. So we'll take the sides off with a supplied screwdriver, which is here, and it's 4 screws. They're in plastic, so be gentle with it. 1. These machines use very little oil. It's really only 250 milliliters or so. You can use 4-stroke engine oil, will do fine, which is basically just another name for SAE 30 lawnmower oil. I have a small one here, which I keep with the generator in a box. I'll show you the box later. And that's just if I need to top up on the day, you know, or if I have to run it for more than effectively 20 hours or so. You know, then I like to do a quick impromptu oil change. Okie dokie. That is our cover. And we can see a number of things. Okay, so this little guy here, that's your air filter. It sucks the air from the bottom up. We'll do that in a minute. We can see that this is the fuel gauge, which I have turned on to off. This is the pull cord. Up here's the choke. Choke up, choke down. That's the pump valve to get it primed. So if you don't start, it might be worth priming it. It basically just, you're manually pushing some petrol into the carburetor. Up here again, we have the air supply that I have set onto red at the moment. Obviously, I put the colors on there, you know, just in case you need to operate it in a hurry. So you have red and green. And then in the front, we have economy off and the engine off. That's a 1 power connector, 1 DC cord reset. Don't use that. The overload is obviously when you have too much power on it. And the oil alert is obviously if your oil gets too low. Right, so where does that leave us now then? Well, we're going to take this thing out. This is effectively the dipstick. like so. You can check what it is. This is a bit of an unfortunate design because you have to twist it in all the way. like so. Back out, we can see it's perfectly fine. It's just on the top of the line. A little bit lower might have been better. Okay, good. So let's get the old oil out there, and we'll do that by pouring it out. And to do that, I'm going to position it at the side of the table. Yeah, the engine is barely warm. So I'll put you here. I will gently tilt. Now the thing to remember here is this thing doesn't have an oil filter. So any gunk or crap or materials that rub off the engine, and remember this isn't a fantastic engine either, this is what in the parlance is probably known as monkey metal, will slowly degrade and basically just churn around in the engine over and over and over. And so the oil change really is frequent. Might seem wasteful, but it's, you know, quarter of a litre. It's not that much. Now I know this goes without saying, but obviously you don't pour this down the drain. You take it down to the local dump, and they will have a place where you put the oil. So we will angle this machine, and I'll gently try pouring some oil into it. Let's see how that goes. So angle. Okay, so we got about 200 milliliters in. This then is our dipstick. We have to be extremely careful with this thing because it's going into a die cast sort of recess, and it never wants to quite sit straight. And of course, once you've threaded this, you can throw this thing away. So nice and slowly, once you've got it all the way in, just a little extra pressure. Out it comes, and we can see that I'm literally just touching it at the very bottom. So I think we can safely put another 50 milliliters in. Good, let's do that. Okay, and I think we have finally arrived. We're just below the checkered line. We're not on the checkered line. I think that's as much as I'm going to put in there. I would consider that full. Life is good. Now before I screw this in, I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger, and I'm just going to daub it around the hole, and that we have a little bit against this seal over here. And it basically means that when I twist the seal on, it just slides in that little bit cleanly, and I don't leave it too early or too late. So that is the oil done. Let's move on. We're now going to do the air filter. The air filter is under this big screw up here. This only needs to be done every 50 hours of runtime. I'm going to do it anyway. There it is. And I like to do it purely because if a little bit of dust comes up or this isn't seated very well, your air intake basically eats dust, and that can't be good for the machine. Now, this is a filter that has to be dipped in oil. So what we'll do, we'll pull it out, we'll give it a de-squeeze. I know it's just a bit of foam, but try and be careful with it anyway, because if these things break, you have to try and hunt spare parts. And spare parts for this machine are available, but not easily. So I'll get out as much of the old oil as possible. And we are also reasonably dust free here, which is nice. Now we can see that basically the air comes in from down here, and it goes up through the filter, and then the air intake proper is up there where it goes into the carburetor. And because it's been a wet weekend when I used this thing, there has been very little dust. So we'll just give this a quick clean out. Like so. down here, I don't know, I say it's been clean, but if you look at that, it's not that clean, is it? So I'm going to get rid of as much of that as possible. I'll put something there. Give that a quick spray down. Okay. Good enough. I think we got the worst of the dust and crap out of there. That looks pretty good. Now, about the sponge, well, I'm going to go to the kitchen with that. I'm going to give it a wash out with a bit of washing up liquid. Then I'm going to wash it with water, and then we're going to let this dry. So I'll see you when that's done. Now, while we're waiting for that thing to dry, we can move on and do the spark plug. Now, the spark plug you don't need to do every time. Again, this is once every 50 hours or so. But I like to do it every time purely. I don't think I cleaned this. Purely because a clean spark plug makes for an easier ignition. And the last thing you want is if you have a power cut, you get this thing out and you urgently need it, and for whatever reason it won't start. That's the sort of thing that frustration is made of. So let's see how we get to the spark plug then. And the access to that is over here, with a big warning sticker that says read the manual. Take this screw out and we'll take the cover out. Like so. So we're now above the machine, and we can see this cable here. That's the spark plug, and we can literally just pull that off, and then we can see the spark plug exposed in there. Let's see whether we can get you on top. And that is it, untwist it. Let's see whether I can work it with my fingers. That might be easier than this. So out comes our little wrench. And there's our spark plug. Here it is. We can see it's kind of sooty. Is there any liquid? No, I guess that's good. But looks a bit dirty. We can clean that up with a bronze brush. So let's give our spark plug a bit of a polish. They're just the carbon deposits. We want to get them all off. And next we're going to check the gap, the spark plug gap that's between the little knobbly bit there and the arm that goes around the corner. And according to the manual, it should be 0.6 to 0.7 of a millimeter. Now to achieve that, I have a depth gauge here. And this is 60, which I interpret to be 0.60. Let's just make sure. And yeah, it is. We can fit it just in there. And the 0.7. We got 0.7, we do. Doesn't. So I don't need to adjust the gap. The gap is fine. And given that it was running fine, I think we don't need to do any further work with the spark plug. So we're now going to reinsert it back into the generator. I think that'll give us, so I'll just take a dip of oil and apply it to the threads and the seal over here. Not on the front, but just to try and make seating it a little easier and to give a slightly better seal. Okay, let's see if we can position this thing. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm twisting it in now. I'm trying to get as far as I can go. Then we have to use the socket. Socket goes on top. And it's got a number of holes in that you can stick your screwdriver in. And then we want a gentle tightening. And that'll do it. Our spark plug. Make sure that is reasonably dust free. Over the top. And give that a push down. That'll have a satisfying clunk. Like so. And then we can replace the top cover with the top cover screw. And then we can replace the rear cover after we've given it a quick wipe. Okay, so these guys only have little plastic tabs that you screw into, so you have to be really careful not to over tighten when you screw this back together. So lid on, screw. If you're thinking about getting one of these, you get larger ones these days. You get 800 isn't done much, or 900 I think. This might be in reality. It says 800 on the manual. But you can get these and about 1200 watt, which would be slightly more useful. Right, time to put the oil filter back in. Now this has been drying on the radiator, and I will make absolutely sure there's no moisture in this. And there isn't. Good. We'll just take a little oil, dribble it once round. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. And so we've got our oil here on our air filter, and we'll just work that in a bit. Now we don't want this thing dripping. The purpose of the oil here is to catch any pieces of dust. If you leave too much on it, it tends to just pool at the bottom of the filter and inevitably start dripping out. So it's kind of like enough is good enough, and too much will just leak. And then we'll push this thing into position. And that, as they say, is that. On with the cover. So we've taken care of the fuel, we've taken care of the spark plug, we've taken care of the air filter, and we've taken care of the oil. Check that one last time, and it's time to put the cover back on. Same deal, be careful with these screws. Now I've had this particular generator here since 2019. So it's done about 5 years now. So in all, I reckon it's done about, I don't know, maybe 100, 120 hours, somewhere near that. I don't use it. I don't think this is for heavy duty. You know, if you need a generator that runs daily, this machine might not be for you. I think you'd want something slightly better. But, you know, for one-offs, it's a good machine. I hope that was interesting. And I hope you have as much joy with your generator as I have with mine. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.